This guy at this time, so you guys can head out.
I'm taking a shortcut.
So everybody else, as they are heading out, you're going to get your Bible out. So your Bible, your iDevice, whatever you read God's Word with. Then what I want you to do is take it out, hold it up high in the air. You say, "This is my Bible.
This is my Bible.
God's Word.
God's Word.
If I read it, and do what it says, it will change my life." Who believes that?
Amen.
Turn your Bibles to Matthew chapter 8. So what we're talking about is we're in a series called How To, Neighbor. This isn't what, we're not really answering the question why we should do it. We understand the why. Or we should understand the why. Jesus' question, what's the greatest commandment? And he said the greatest commandment is to love God with everything. The second is like it. Love others as much as you love ourselves. It's easy for us to do the litmus test because if I asked you, what do you love? Many of us would say, well, I love God. Well, how much do you love God? We can kind of go through and say, okay, my last 30 check stubs or my last 30 transactions from my bank account, I can go through and see what I spent my money on because what you value, you spend your money on, right? If you go and reconcile your checkbook, time is money, so if you go and you write down the last 30 days what you've been spending your time, you can pretty quickly figure out, okay, so what am I doing? What am I spending my money on? The third question is, what do you always talk about? And you go, go and talk to your neighbor or somebody else who lives next, go talk to your family and say, ask them that question, what am I always talking about? You figure out, what do you really love? What do you really value? So we get loving God with everything. That's the reason we're talking about how do we neighbor? How do we do this? We talked about the very first week, how do we break down those walls of prejudice? About as believers we're called to build bridges, we're called to build doorways, and everybody else wants to build walls. We talk about how do we love and value and cherish the next generation, the kids. That's the reason why I love when a kid walks up to me. So sorry if I freaked you guys out because Jonathan's like, can I share something? Usually I've learned, hey, tell me what you want to say. And as long as it kind of makes sense, like, yeah, let's get there and do it. Because I know sometimes when I get up here, sometimes what I say kind of makes sense. I don't know if you heard what he said. He said, church is awesome because we get to come here and pray, then we get to go home and play. So in case you didn't pick up what he said, I'm like, amen, that's all right, let's do it. All right? Last week we talked about empowering the poor, right? We talked about what does it look like to give a hand up, not a hand out. So today what we're going to talk about is the lonely being loved. Because what I've realized more and more and more, if we ask that question, well, who is the lonely? We ask that question, who is the lonely? A couple things come to mind. We'd say, well, the lonely would be those who don't have a spouse, right? The widow or the widower, right? They're lonely, right? So they lost their loved one, so they're spending most of the day by themselves. People who live at the nursing home, you go into the nursing home, and those people look lonely. Older adults, right? I had the opportunity to be at Indiana Wesleyan University yesterday. And there was like hundreds of people all over the place. There was activity all over the place. In the midst of all the chaos, in the midst of all the activity, you could see pockets of loneliness. Kiddos who left home for the very first time and they're walking into a university and they don't know anybody yet. As we talk about, there's this thing called bridges out of poverty. There are so many people who are impoverished, not financially, because we think we've equated poverty as materialistically. Well, I don't have any money, I don't have really nice things, and so I must be impoverished. But one of those things is relational poverty. It means I spend all day at my house by myself. I'm a single parent, I'm a single mom, I'm a single dad. They're lonely. Some of you go to work and you clock clock in, you clock out, and you don't talk to a single person. Or the person in the cubicle right next to you. Loneliness is all around us. My fear is when we look around this very room, people show up every Sunday morning. And we walk in and we're one of the last ones in. And it's over, we're one of the very first ones out. And though we're coming to a church where there's a bunch of people and there's a bunch of activity, and there's a lot of opportunity to get connected, we're drowning in our loneliness. And I realize there's really about 4 reasons why I think loneliness is on the rise. First is the breakdown of families. Have you noticed the disintegration of families? You agree with me on here? Maybe I'm just wrong. Right? We see more broken families. We see now mixed marriages with just a bunch of craziness. And so because of that, even within our nuclear family or whatever the nuclear family looks like today, there's more loneliness than ever before. I remember being that kid that grew up in a broken family. My mom and dad divorced, and so my mom went to the workaday world, and she was working 2 or 3 jobs to pay for all that it is with having 3 kids. My dad was nowhere to be found. My sisters were busy doing what sisters do. And so I made a brand new friend. It was called my television. Right? And the friends that I have, right? It was the Cosbys. It was the Simpsons, right? Those are the people I was hanging out with all the time. But those are also television shows. And so I went through what I call the dark ages, right? And I was so lonely. I just wanted somebody else. I've also realized that there's increased mobility. What does that mean? That our job transferred, right? And you get transferred for different places. So finally here I am. I'm in Frankton, going places and trying to finally make some friends. And we get up and move to Florida. So I go to Florida, I start making some, then we come back to Anderson. Right? And it's crazy more and more how this increased mobility. We work harder and we work longer. Right? Because there's more bills to be paid. And so a lot of times I think the loneliness in the workplace is because we're going, you know what? I'm not there to make friends. I'm there to do a task. I'm there to put the widget on the gidget, and I have a quota that I have. Right? This last one, I think the rise of social media has really increased our loneliness. They go, oh, Pastor Ben, are you kidding me? I mean, there's Facebook, and there's Yik Yak, and there's Instagram, and there's Twitter, and there's a bunch of other stuff that sounds like curse words if I would say it to you, but they're not. And so we're on all these different social medias. We follow all these people. We spend hours upon hours, and I can tell you, everybody in the church, what they doing. Are you ready? Social media is to relationships what fast food is to nutrition. Write it down. Put it on a billboard. The rise of social media, right? So what it is when we go to fast food, when we go to McDonald's, right? It's cheap, it's quick, and it's easy. Then after you consume it, you might as well drive around the block and go get some more because it does not fill you up. And that's what happens. We spend all this time on Facebook. We spend all this time on social media. And we act like we know everybody, but really they don't know anything. We know what people are doing. We don't really know them. If you have your Bible, turn to Matthew chapter 8. Because one of the things that I'm challenging us with is if we're breaking down the barriers of prejudice, if we're learning to embrace the next generation, if we're going to empower the poor, the third one, we got to learn to love the lonely. Right? My prayer is really simple as a result of this message. There's a song out there. I encourage you to go Google it, look it up. I don't know the name of it, but listen to this. God, give me your eyes for just 1 second. Give me your eyes so I can see that everything that's been missing. Give me your love for humanity. Give me your love for the brokenhearted, right? The ones that are so far beyond my reach. Like the least, the last, the only left out, and looked over. That's what the church is called to do. To be the transformative agents of grace. And it's all around us. Do you believe it? I'm going to tell you 2 stories. One is found in Matthew chapter 8, starting in verses 1, 2, and 3. I think it goes to 4. You see, Jesus is walking around, and when I read, I love reading about Jesus. because he was just a regular person, but he had his God agenda of different things that he wanted to do, that he had different things that he was going to accomplish. And so in Matthew chapter 8, verses 1, 2, 3, I think goes through verse 4, as Jesus is walking and talking, he's just hanging out with people. That's the reason why I love Jesus, because I told you my greatest gift is I'm not a very talented person. I'm not a very gifted person. But I realize the one way that God has gifted me more than anything else is just to relationally connect with people on a very real level. And I think that's what Jesus did at his core. So he's walking along one day, and all of a sudden there's this leper. You can read it, follow along in Matthew 8, 1 to 4. And there's this leper. Now we have to understand the background of leprosy. Left untreated, you had about 10 years of life. Usually what happened is in Deuteronomy, it said it would go like this. You would wake up one day and you would have this little spot on your arm. Right? And you go, okay, that's kind of weird. I don't know what that is. Maybe we should get that checked out. And if somebody, the priest, would say, you know what? That is like an unclean spot. You need to move out of town for a while, more for sanitary reasons. Because if it was leprosy, if it was some kind of defiling skin disease, it would spread throughout the community. And so to protect the body, they would say, let's take this one person who's sick and put them out by themselves. So you could imagine, in my situation, I got a beautiful wife, I got two great little guys, got a church family that I love. There's a lot of stuff you're trying to get done. When you wake up and you get that little spot on your arm, you're thinking, oh Lord, do not let it be what I think it is, right? So you go a couple days, and because I'm a guy, and my wife says, you need to go to the priest and get it checked out. She usually say, go to the doctor. I say, nah, I'll be okay, right? Because we're humans, we got things to do, we're busy, right? And so not only does the spot start out small, but it gets a little bigger, and pretty soon, within 4 or 5 days, I got a little numbness associated with it. And so finally, I go to the priest, and the doctor says, the priest says, it is the worst news ever. Today, the word worst news ever, I think, is when somebody says you got cancer. It would be that same kind of mindset. You have leprosy. Because now that means do not pass go, do not collect $200. You're not going home, you don't get to kiss your babies and say goodbye to your wife. It is you're moving to a leper colony with other sick and afflicted people just to wait out the inevitable death. So because it would start in one spot of your body, and again, because it's infection, your lymph nodes would start to swell, you'd start to lose your hair, you would become defiled, you become disfigured, it would affect your vocal cords, so you would sound different, you would look different. The very identity of who you were is now dead. And like I said, you have about 10 years for this to happen. And in Matthew chapter 8, Jesus comes walking by. You see, in Matthew chapter 8, when the leper hears Jesus is walking by, it's now a surge of hope. Probably the one thing that he hasn't had for a long time in his life is hope. What's the hope? That if Jesus is who I believe he is, then he has the ability to heal me. And so when he yells out, Jesus, Master, Teacher, have mercy upon me. I know that you have the ability to heal me. What I want to know is, are you willing to heal me? And it's one of these instances, one of these phrases, that if we're not careful, we just read right over top of it. Because Jesus says, yes, I'm willing, and he touches the leper. Now, normally we would just read right over top of that. One of the things you have to understand, when Jesus reached out and he touched the leper, that was something that you never did. There's a reason why the leper was in the colony by himself. There's a reason why when you would come by, they would tear the clothes and they would yell, unclean! Unclean! Because you would go running, screaming in the other direction. Because you're afraid if I get this defiling, this contagious skin disease, I'm going to end up in a helplessness and a hopelessness state that all those other people in, so I don't want to get anywhere close. But Jesus reaches out, touches him. Why? I went online the other day and I just asked that question. Is there truly a healing power in touch? What I love is there is a school that have done a scientific research about the healing power of touch. I love when science does like their own little experiment and proves what the Bible has already said a long time ago. They said that there's this healing power in touch, that there's these different levels of dopamine in the brain. Dopamine are the kind of the feel-good kind of parts of your brain. So just touching somebody, see Ronnie's like, oh yeah, I feel good. Pastor is touching. Maybe not looking like, you touch me, yeah, I'm going to break your fingers. But really saying that there is this healing power of touch, that our skin is one of the largest organs in our entire body. They did a study in Russia. In Russia for 10 years, they had in these orphanages, babies that were dying in unprecedented numbers. They're looking at going, what in the world is going on? And so we feed them, we change them, we water them, and we leave them alone, right? And they are crying, they're losing weight, and they keep dying. So they said, okay, what can we do? So we're going to need volunteers, and all we're going to ask the volunteers to do is come in maybe for an hour, 2 hours a day, and just rock the babies. Guess what? The death rate, just plummeted. They call it failure to thrive. It just doesn't happen in babies. Many of us spiritually, physically, relationally, emotionally are dying. Why? Remember the AT&T commercial? Reach out and touch someone. Not just a phone call, not just a tweet, not just a text. When Jesus reaches out and touches this person, what I'm challenging you with this week is when you see somebody, don't give it a hey, don't do this. I mean, hey, how you doing? It's good to see you. I don't care if they recoil. In your mind, you say, I'm helping you heal. Our youngest son, Noah, I tell everybody, he pays in hugs. He is who he is. I mean, last night we were up downtown and we were meeting somebody for the first time, and so you're doing the whole handshake. And I was like, this is Noah, and all of a sudden it was like, boom! And they're like, he pays in hugs. There's another story. We just moved to Michigan. We lived in our apartment building. There was this elderly woman who lived across the hallway from us. And when we moved in, everybody said, be careful of her. Like, you do not want to cross her. I was like, oh, great. We got like an infant and a toddler. Like, we are probably the worst. Like, when we were moving in, she was probably wanting to do like a hex on us. Like, could you please move somewhere else? She was like the crazy cat lady that everybody was afraid of. And so, of course, every time we go upstairs, we're trying to tiptoe, and Noah and Isaac are just being who they are. And so there was one day, I'll never forget this day because Amanda was talking about it. She said she was taking up the groceries. We live on the third floor. She's taking up the groceries, and Noah's in his little car seat, so hanging out in the car seat, and Isaac's running up and down the stairs, making all the noise a 2-year-old does. And she comes out and was like, oh God, it's like Josh, she's going to eat our toddler. She looks at Amanda and she said, hey, I can hang out with him for a little bit. What's that mean? And so Amanda has much more like love and grace and mercy. I've been like, no, you go back in there, I'm going to call the police. So they hung out and they played for a little while. They get done and Isaac walks over and he says, Miss Janice, thank you so much, and gives her a hug. Amanda said at that point she went, boop. And she said she stood there for about 10, 15 seconds, just rigid as a board. She literally could see her melt. And she said, that's the first time I've had a hug in, I don't even remember how long. So the next time we would be out there, so this is what started to happen. When we start to leave, I think Miss Janice started like, people, she was like, wait. Why? Because she knew every time that she saw Isaac, she was going to get a hug. Now, to fast forward many years later, we met her sister. So the sister comes over, and again, we're doing an introduction, and of course Isaac, he's the one that I think started paying with hugs, and then Noah just picked up on it. So they introduced Janice, this is my sister, Miss Carol, and so they're talking. And so Noah's like, hey, Isaac's like, nice to meet you. Boom, same thing. And I thought, oh, no, this is going on. She said the same thing. She said, that's the first time I've had a hug in like 10 years. So of course I found that. I'm like, I'm going to give you a hug. 10 years? That's crazy. And this is what Carol said. She said, I want to thank you. I'm talking to my wife now. I want to thank you I said, what? She said, Janice had this really bad heart disease. She about died. And she was sick and she wasn't getting better. Failure to thrive. She had no reason to get out of bed. So then you guys moved in. I was like, oh, great. She said, no, she looked forward to Isaac and Noah. She said, listen. She said, you guys saved my sister. That little boy saved my sister's life. There's another instance in Luke chapter 8. Jesus is walking around and doing what Jesus does. He's preaching and teaching to everybody. So if you can imagine, if Jesus was here and you could have the healing power and the healing ability, every ache and pain that you have, you want to get close to Jesus. Like, hey, let me tell you my ailments and what's going on. I got this trick hip and my knee and my back. I mean, maybe Jesus, you can touch me and heal me. So in this instance, as he's walking and talking, everybody's there and they're jostling for a position, and Jesus turns around and says, wait a second, somebody just touched me. And you can imagine the disciples like, Jesus, I know that you're God in human form, but everybody's touching you. He said, no. When somebody touched me, this is different. When somebody touched me, the healing power just came out of me. In Luke chapter 8, this lady stands up and she said, my bad, Jesus. Again, this is the Benjamin James version, so if you look into it, it doesn't say my bad. It's my own interpretation. She said, my bad, Jesus. You see, it says this woman had an issue of blood for 12 to 13 years. And again, it was a defiling disease. It was a sickness that she had. It was failure to thrive. And so when she sees Jesus, she's like, boop. And she's changed and transformed. And all I'm challenging you with is we are the church. Amen? We are the hands and feet. We are the body of Christ. Amen? Amen. Then why do we walk around like the night of the living dead? Why do we walk around like a bunch of zombies? Right? Why are we just going through the motions? When there's a world that is hurting and we are called to be agents of change. So what else do we do? I think not only are we called to have a conversation, not only have a conversation is to sit down and say, hey man, how you doing? Like, so if I ever touch you and you feel like you're going to punch me sometimes, okay. You're touching me. It's alright. No, not to touch you. The second thing that I realized is we love by listening. In Luke chapter 24, verses 17, 18, and 19, there's these two guys and they're walking down the road. Jesus has just been crucified. Jesus has been in the tomb. They go back, the tomb is not empty. And they're walking, they're going, man, our idea of Jesus being the Messiah, we must have been wrong. Like, I really thought all the stuff that he was doing, like you read all through the Old Testament, and everything that is said in the Old Testament, man, Jesus was that person. Well, then what's great is Jesus shows up. And he's walking along and he goes, okay, so you're saying that you don't think Jesus is really the Messiah. Why is that? Now you have to ask yourself a question. If Jesus is God in human form, is he asking a question that he doesn't already know the answer to? I think he does. Why is he asking the question? Because it gives value to the other person. So many times we just talk. When we engage this, before we use this, and we sit down and we say, hey, so Ron and I having a conversation, what's going on in your life? There's a touch. Guys, this is just for the guys. Now some girls may be this way as well, but this is just for the guys. I've learned this. Sometimes we're just called to listen and not fix it. Ladies, right? Because my wife had to tell me this early in our relationship. She would start to say, hey, this is the problem, this is what's going on. I'm like, all right, I'm over there. She said, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to call this person to do this, and this person does that. That was so like, she said, no! Sal needs you to fix it. So, what am I supposed to do? Just listen. Right. So there's now conversations in our relationship Where she'll start to say something, I'll say, hey, hold on. Am I fixing it? She said, no! Just listen. I mean, think about it. Not on Facebook. When's the last time you sat down with somebody across the table with somebody and say, hey, what's going on in your life? I really want to know what's going on. And then not just listen, but really hear what's going on. Because what's great, the most powerful thing that you can do is after somebody shares a prayer request, after you pray with someone, it's a week or two later, you walk by and you say, hey, I know Susie had the knee thing and she's doing okay. I was like, wait a second. So not only did he take time to be with me, he didn't just listen, he didn't just pray, but now he's going back. He must really care. How many people in the world today really care about our fellow man? And if we're not going to do it in the church, who will? Right. Here's the last thing that I realized. Especially kids, especially. But most people spell love like this. T-I-M-E. Timmy? No, time. Time. Again, I challenge you. I challenge you. This is what I want you to do this week. Just make a list this week of your hour-long segments. Kind of round up, round down, however you want to do it. What do you do in a 24-hour period? Then you ask the question, if I was to ask you if time truly is money, if time is valuable, how are you spending one of your most precious commodities? Well, I'm spending it eating, sleeping, bathing, and that's about it. What's the TV? Oh. So I know who you love the most. Yourself. Where's God in there? Where's serving your fellow person? Where's your discipleship time? Who are you hanging out with, right? I mean, I read so many different times with Jesus that he was interrupted. There's so many times, and go read through the Gospels. There's so many times that this becomes the whole Kairos thing. Kairos and Chronos. There's so many instances that I read about Jesus in the New Testament. I would have been irritated. Because I'm like, you have so much stuff that you're trying to do. I have my to-do list. I want my to-do list to be a to-done list. Then I realized that the only thing that I can start to rectify in my mind is that Jesus didn't necessarily wake up every day with a to-do list. Well, I got to do this, and I got to do this, and I got to do this. I really think he had maybe one, if not two things on his to-do list. You know what the one or two things on his to-do list was? And again, we can argue about this till the cows come home. And you can be wrong. It's okay. It's your right. We can argue about this and have a conversation. I think the one or two things that he had on his list is, number one, he wanted to love God with everything. And here's the second thing. You already know it, right? To love his neighbor as much as he loved himself. And I think Jesus saw people not as interruptions, but as opportunities. He meets a woman out of love. He meets a leper. He meets a blind guy. And I don't mean like he was showing up at his house to put some blinds up. I mean the guy couldn't see. There's another time he's preaching to a group of people. Now this would kind of mess your mind. You're talking. Could you imagine during service and all of a sudden somebody digs a hole in the roof? Right? And we already have one. We're fishing. Why would you do this? And as we're talking, a paralyzed guy is being dropped down. And instead of chastising the people, saying, "What are you doing?" Instead of yelling at the prayer, "I got some things that I got to get done first," he stops in the middle of it. What does he do? He talks to the paralyzed guy. So here's the challenge. All around us. Look around. Look around this room. To your left, to your right, all around. I'm telling you, in this room, there are lonely people. In this room, there are people who say, "Well, how are you doing?" For all around us. It's because nobody's really stopped and had a real, honest conversation. Never really connected beyond just coming to church. There's two new groups. One group that we're getting ready to start up. And so it's a way to get connected beyond just a Sunday morning. So on September 7th, I'd love for you to write this down. We're going to have a fellowship meal kickoff. It's going to be at 6:30 on September 7th. It's going to be the start of our midweek Bible study. For everybody that's been a part of it before, we are going to use what we did last year. So instead of just having one big group, we can be lonely all together. This is kind of an oxymoron, right? Let's be lonely together. We're going to be in small groups. In those small groups, we're going to care for each other. We're going to pray with each other. We're going to have honest discussion with each other. The reason why we do small groups, so hopefully you'll share with each other, you get to know each other. So then that will start our 13-week study. You go, you know what? I can't drive at night. I don't see very well, so I can't really do it Wednesday night. This is the new group that we're going to start. Starting on the second Tuesday in September, I don't know what it's 13th. On September 13th, we're going to start a brand new thing. It's a brand new group. We're calling it Tuesdays at 10. So we're going to come. I want you to come. I want you to bring your Bible. You say, well, I work. I can't be here Tuesday at 10. Then don't be here. Do not quit your job so you can be here Tuesday at 10. Come on Wednesday night, right? But you say, you know what? Usually I'm at my house. I'm there with myself, and there's nothing for me to do. I'm going to brew a pot of coffee. I'm going to have my Bible. And all we're going to do Tuesday at 10 is just read God's Word and just come pray with each other. Right? I met a guy this past week, and this is what he said to me. He said, Ben, don't be afraid to try new things. You know, this is a brand new thing. Is it going to work? I don't know. And guess what? If we go through the month of September, and if it's me, myself, and I, we will have a great time together. Me and myself, drinking coffee. But he said, you know what? I want to get connected beyond just a Sunday morning. I'm not doing anything Tuesday at 10. Come join me. We're just going to pray with each other. We're just going to hang out. We're going to do Wednesday night Bible study. One of the other things that we talked about is we're still in the infancy of trying to figure out how do we do a marriage group. 2 other opportunities. We're going to start our men's group. And so instead, we're going to change it a little bit. Instead of just doing a one-time a month men's group, we're going to do 2 times a month. We're going to try to plan some events. We're going to have a book and do like a discipleship kind of study. You go, well, that's great for the men. What about us women? I'm glad you asked. There's a women's book club. Women's, ladies. Let's put ladies. Ladies book club. You go, what is that? It's a time where you're going to read a book and you go, I don't know how to read. Just come on the last Monday of the month and just have a great time of fellowship. Right? This is where there are opportunities to get connected. If you're inside the 4 walls, if you hear my voice, what I'm telling you is there's going to be some work on your part. But when you take the opportunity beyond just the Sunday morning, there's a Sunday school, there's so many opportunities. Take the initiative and get connected within the 4 walls. But then here's the second part. This way, all heads bowed, all eyes closed. Because I really want to pledge the heart, right? Pledge the hand. I want to talk to those who God is really speaking to. You say, this is my question. If I asked you, is there 1 or 2 people that you know that you need to have a conversation with, maybe take them out to lunch, go get a cup of coffee, go see them? You say, you know what, there's a name of 1 or 2 that comes to mind. Will you raise your hand? All right, now, so that's the first thing. I want you to keep your hand raised. Keep your hand raised. Because there's the second part. Now, the second part is, will you go and contact them this week? If you say, no, I'm not at that point, put your hand down. You say, no, I want to. So keep your hand raised now. I'm going to do it. I don't want to just have name okay. God, all over this place, there's hands raised that you spoke to different people. And God, if there's anything in this message that wasn't from you, I just pray that you'll quickly erase it from our minds. But God, if there is a message and this is from you, and that these hands that are raised because there are specific people that we know who are lonely, that there are specific people that we know that we are supposed to see, I pray that you'll give us eyes to be able to see them. And that we will be your hands and feet and go out and have a tangible conversation with them. To be able to listen to them, to be able to spend time with them, and let them know that they are loved because you love them. We love you, God. It's your precious name. All God's people say.